Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers is a weekly program designed to answer all your questions, including the ones you didn't even know you had, and to clarify the endless debates around the wonderful and fascinating world of sexuality. Join us for real talk about sex from two experts in the field. Richard and Larry Siegel have over 50 years of experience as sex therapists, educators, counselors, and researchers. The Siegel Brothers are recognized around the world as trainers of medical and mental health professionals.
Hello and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. I'm Dr. Richard Siegel, a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And my super awesome big brother.
Yeah, love that one.
Thank you for joining us. If you've found us on YouTube through Facebook, please do us a favor and hit the like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Give a thumbs up on that as well.
And welcome. This is our weekly forum. Though every day should be Sex Talk Day, this is ours.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us. And we like to start our weekly sex talk with a look at sex in the news.
So what is the first item that we have up for us today?
Well, you picked some interesting things. Let's talk about this first.
Okay.
The ongoing problems with sexual politics and the ever-disappearing line between church and state at more and more places in these United States.
Indeed.
So, school starting, whether that's online, hopefully should be, or more and more campuses opening.
Yep.
Many of them finding themselves having to turn around and close up again and send everybody home.
You'd think a school would do better at planning.
Yeah. But for those who are on campus, returning to campus, this item in the news has to do with the University of Dallas and their new sex policy, which was written into the student handbook.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And as we were talking earlier, apparently it seems likely a private and religious school, though the University of Dallas would belie that. It sounds like a public school. But the policy is prohibiting premarital sex for all students. And it will be addressed
Now let's let that sink in.
Yeah.
Let's let that sink in. A university, the University of Dallas, is telling their university students,
their adult students,
right, that they are not allowed to have any type of non-marital sex on campus.
or while they're students. It has to do with the code of conduct.
So it's not even just on campus. It's just as long as they are students.
Catholic social teaching is their model, which requires that sexual relationships occur solely within the confines of sanctified marriages. So I suppose they would have some stretching of the definition of sanctified if we were talking about legal marriages that are between people of the same sex.
Right. What about common law marriages? Do they not count those?
How about college students?
Yeah. How about human beings?
Right? And I like this point in here that it really just makes premarital sex the same thing as sneaking alcohol into your dorm. And we've been talking about this with teen pregnancy forever. Make it a vice, and
That's right. And they won't do it.
right.
Tell them they can, and you know all your kids are good listeners. They won't do it.
Instead of grown-up conversations
Right.
with our young adult children about their sexual values, not the parents, not the schools.
Right. Well, but I think it speaks loudly to the school's sexual values, just like all of that other abstinence nonsense. It's another example of school administrators don't know how to talk to students about sexuality. They don't know how to go about putting in programs and educating. They don't know how to be adults.
Make it go away.
Right. So they basically are holding the students responsible for what they're not comfortable talking about.
Nonsense.
So I can't talk to you about it, so you just can't do it, and it solves my problem.
And, the same problem runs through wherever you look, right? Next item has to do, we talked about this last year sometime. The same kerfuffle continues with child sex dolls.
Right, a burgeoning industry.
Right. Now, this is a group from Australia called, what are they called? Scream and Shout? collective shout,
Yeah.
who are horrified at what's going on in China.
Yeah.
Because, again, these sex dolls, which is nothing new, been around for a long time. This group is now up in arms because, and you got to love the journalism here. The headline says, child, in quotes, sex dolls with disposable private parts so sickos can hire them by the hour. On sale in China. There's a comma missing there.
A few.
They're outraged because of the disposable private parts thing.
Because it allows for the sharing, and they consider that sort of like a gang rape of a doll.
Right. So how many times does it come up that no matter what the issue, if someone is upset by it, it immediately is convenient to take it down the slippery slope and make the argument that blank sexual behavior will lead one to pedophilic rape.
Right. Well, we know, and again, I think that's been shown time and time again. One of the most famous quotes, the late Justice Antonin Scalia, if we allow people of the same sex to get married, then the very next step on that slippery slope is they would marry a goat.
No, he posed it as a question. What's next then? We have
Well,
to let people marry their goats?
It was a rhetorical
Well, of course,
question,
of
which I
course,
take as a
because
statement.
Everybody knows that bestiality is just the next step from
That's right.
Same-sex marriage.
That's right. So, and this is a growing industry in China. We have to admit that these child sex dolls
And brothels with adult sex dolls.
That's right.
But the same argument when we talked about it last year. Are these sex toys or are these victims of sex crimes?
Right.
And a lot of the new laws since Trump's been stomping around the White House, redefining sexual abuse and obscene content.
That's right.
So that cartoons, animation, even written descriptions.
Yep.
So prose, fiction. If it's about a child, real or imagined, it's a sex offense. It's a sex crime against some children's. Well, they argue it's a sex offense against all children.
Well, and that's the point, and that's the trope that I really want to point out here. That it's that same old argument. I think we talked about that last week or the week before in another context as well. That when it comes to sex, and it comes to really anything pleasurable, it's more this erotophobia that we have, as the basis of our society. That when it comes to anything that's pleasurable, the first reaction is it will go too far.
Right.
We talked about it last week with
Last
that
week
fear of liking
what
something.
What if I like it too much?
That's right. That I'm afraid it'll take me to places I don't want to go. So I think that's really part of that trope, because their entire position is based on the fact that if guys are using these sex dolls, then of course very quickly they're going to build a tolerance to that. It's not going to be enough, and that is going to lead them directly into sexually abusing a child.
Right.
And sorry, we don't see it that way. Right? Not that we have any great love or trying to protect the child sex doll industry, but you know what? For a lot of the guys that are going to be using those, it is better that they're home with a doll than even thinking about being with a child. And even though, again, we've made that argument that just because that is their desire or their urge, it doesn't mean they're going to act it out. But if they don't have any other options,
encourage it.
Right, they don't have any other options. So if anything, we could probably make a good case that this will keep guys off the street. It won't put them on the street looking for children.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It's certainly not going to cause, but it may prevent.
Right. And it seems that any sort of non-traditional or unique or weird or whatever word you want to use type of sexual act, if it isn't that basic, vanilla, everything we know, it seems that the reaction, the knee-jerk response is panic.
Yeah. Porn panic, sex panic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pedophile panic.
It's all
Everything
part of the
always
same thing.
gets tied back to the pedophile agenda.
Right.
Like there was a meeting somewhere.
Exactly.
They have a position statement.
That's right. Next time you see a pedophile, ask to see what's on his clipboard.
Right. So, last item?
All right. Last item basically just has to do with the Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion mega hit.
The phenomenon grows.
It really
and it's
does.
made the New York Times.
That's right. That's right. This is an article from the New York Times talking about that song WAP. And I think what that has really sort of dredged up for a lot of people. Now, there's some really, I think there's insane reaction to it, but I think there's also some really good response to it in that, you know, if we take everything else aside, there's very little normalizing female sexuality, especially in the entertainment industry. Male sexuality, it's everywhere. In fact, the entire music industry is based on an adolescent male sexual fantasy. So to see women sort of empowering themselves and bringing this up as an issue for them to rally around, that's a great thing in and of itself.
Absolutely.
And I think it really does bring to light an issue that many women sort of struggle with. Wet vaginas make a lot of women uncomfortable, make a lot of men uncomfortable, but just focusing on the impact on women, that here's a way of kind of not only just celebrating it as they do, but normalizing it. Right? It's probably the only thing I've ever seen that's part of the public consciousness that kind of says this is not a problem, this is okay, this is normal, and we love it. Right? Because so much energy is put in by a lot of women to kind of claim dryness is the standard they want to go for. A dry vagina is cleaner. A dry vagina doesn't have bacteria. A dry vagina doesn't do anything like that. No, we don't want dry vaginas.
Shall we toast this week's sake toast?
I think so.
To WAP?
To WAP, to wet vaginas. Here you go.
Cheers.
And it is milky sake.
I knew you had to be gross.
I'm Rachel Needle, co-director of Modern Sex Therapy Institutes, and Modern Sex Therapy Institutes is a continuing education provider. We provide continuing education for medical and mental health professionals around the world, and we have over 140 archived workshops on our website, so please check them out at www.modernsextherapyinstitutes.com. Also, we have a number of certification programs, including sex therapy, couples in sex therapy, LGBTQIA affirmative therapy, alternative relationships, transgender mental health care, medical sexology, sex education, and sex counselor certifications. In addition, we offer a PhD in clinical sexology. So please, again, go to our website, check out everything that we have to offer. A lot of our stuff is available solely online from the convenience of your own home or office. We do things live in 8 states and live via webinar as well.
All right, welcome back. Our topic for tonight is kind of be a little bit of a mixed bag, but we want to talk a little bit about what we'll start calling sex under the influence. Talking about drugs that are used for sexual performance, sexual experiences, including a little bit about some of this male enhancement stuff and all these products that you've been hearing about.
It hasn't really gone away, has it? It's been a while since we've seen Enzyte Bob.
That's right.
And all of those dozens of products on television. Extends.
That's right.
All of those
That's right.
cutely named pills and powders.
Now, one of the reasons we don't see a whole lot of those anymore, there are still some that are out there, certainly, but why we don't see all those commercials anymore was because they're all under indictment. Right? Mostly for the scam of the pre-ordering and the automatic billing and all that kind of stuff.
Cancel your subscription at any time. You mean after you've paid 6 months in advance,
right?
And it takes a year for them to get the paperwork through.
If at all.
Right.
If at all. So, a lot of them have been done in by that.
Not for the claims that they can make because they're not anything, right? Remember, there's prescription drugs and there's over-the-counter drugs that are controlled by the FDA. And then there's the supplement industry, which is nothing.
It's completely unregulated.
Here's a tip for you. Anytime you're watching TV and see a commercial with somebody screaming something promising really loud at you, look for a little box that will appear towards the end of the commercial that says, this product has not been evaluated by the
Mm-hmm.
FDA, and it is not intended to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease or condition.
Right.
That's the clue that all that yelling and screaming was bullshit. That they're selling you crap that's just vitamins or worse.
Yeah, or worse.
And because they can make whatever claim they want. And you know what? If somebody sells a pill that has horny goat weed, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and they tell them that it's nature's Viagra, there's guys that are going to buy it.
Right.
Is horny goat weed nature's Viagra? No.
No.
Right.
It really is not. In fact, let me also put one other word in there too, because there's, a lot of these advertisements, again, they're looking for something like that, looking for that fine print where it says it doesn't do anything. But basically, we also have to beware of some of the other codes that they use, like clinically tested. That's a big term that people use. So 2 things you got to know about that. Number 1, where is this clinic of which they speak?
That means they gave it to people.
Right.
They gave it to their neighbors, said, here, take this.
Maybe, but if you listen closely, you'll also hear that I've never heard any of these commercials say their product was clinically tested. They'll say like some of the ingredients were clinically tested.
Right.
And what they don't tell you is they probably don't have any of that ingredient in.
Oh, what's the baseball player sells? Fenugreek.
Fenugreek.
Right?
Right. That's
and they called it. This was brilliant marketing. That's why I think we're a little jealous that we didn't go into that line of work.
Yeah.
Testofen.
Right.
Testosterone and fenugreek.
Right.
Well, any link between this herb and testosterone is purely anecdotal.
Right.
But that's actually a more ethical one, because they're upfront about the BS they're selling.
I guess,
it's vitamins with this herb in it. And, she'll like it too.
Right. Well, that's the teaser. That's what gets guys to buy it. If it was just for their own vitality.
Tell a guy he's going to have a heart attack and he'll go, yeah, whatever.
That's right.
Tell a guy it'll affect his erections. He'll snap too and change his behavior.
That's right. So all you young guys that actually smoke cigarettes, you keep smoking, it will affect your erections.
Absolutely.
Right. So take that to heart now. Right. So again, all of these different products, and they're not just herbs. There's creams, there's lotions. What was it? Argimax. No, Argimax was the first one I'm thinking of that had those commercials. Right? This was the cream, and it was my favorite commercial because it had a guy with what seemed to be true wonder and amazement in his voice and in his mannerisms. Couldn't believe it. You take this cream and you rub it on your penis, and after about 60 seconds, it'll get hard. Unbelievable.
Magic ingredient.
Unbelievable. It's true, but I just still can't get over that. But this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
The so-called, it tried and failed, the testosterone cream, and then the L-arginine cream. Same thing with telling women to rub these lotions on their clitoris and see if they get a response.
That's right.
It doesn't really matter if it's just olive oil. They're going to get a response.
If you're rubbing your clitoris, you're going to get a response.
So, again, low tech is probably better than high tech.
Sure. Now, again, there are a number of people that do have problems. They do have issues. Most of the people that go for these kind of products, I don't think they have sexual problems. I think they just have sexual insecurities.
Confidence problems.
And that's what these products are really exploiting.
Yes.
No different than in the 50s and early 60s, telling women to buy this cream that they can rub on their breasts and their breasts will get bigger. Remember all those years I used to tell women before you order anything like that, look for women with really big hands. All right, and then you may be able to see that there's something going on. But there's a long history of exploiting sexual insecurities, insecurities people have in their masculinity, in their femininity, and that's really all these products are doing. Because even if you take a product like Viagra, you remember that when they did the research in early 2000s, trying to see if Viagra would have an impact on women. Right. In a similar way to what it does on men, and the placebo outperformed the drug.
Right. I think that's why the Berman sisters ruined their reputation. they were taking Pfizer money for too long and touting Viagra for
Right.
women, which does nothing. Well, actually, it does the same thing as it does for men. Opens up blood flow. in
That's
the
exactly
pelvis,
right.
But it has to, again, the difference is the brain.
Right.
It has to do with feeling aroused. And just because a woman has more blood flow in her vagina doesn't necessarily mean she's feeling more aroused in
That's
her
right.
brain.
That's right. Now, using that same point that you just made about how much of it really is what's going on between the ears, not between the legs. When we look at the way people, men and women, use a lot of various drugs, whether you're talking about drugs to anesthetize, desensitize, or drugs to supposedly impact performance, is there a difference between how men and women tend to
well,
use these
we
products?
talked about this earlier. I think the sad reality is that for a lot of times, if men are taking a drug, the idea is to enhance performance, that goal-oriented thing. And if women are taking a drug to enhance sex, more often than not, it's so that it's not painful.
Right.
So a little, like you said, anesthetizing. Alcohol is more likely to be used.
Right.
Or even opiates or something like that, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. The ridiculously high percentage of women who report that sex is painful.
Yep. Yep.
So guys are, buying these things, Super P-Force that they found on the internet to last like a super stud, and women are really, unfortunately, trying to make sex less painful and therefore more pleasurable.
Yeah.
Now there is this trend that's also an oldie that's not going anywhere, of guys using numbing agents, either condoms with benzocaine or lidocaine creams, to literally numb themselves out so they could last longer. And this is, an age-old beef that we've had.
Right.
That the number of guys that would rather have a numb penis than risk coming quickly and being embarrassed. And B, it's not about sensitivity, it's about anxiety.
Right.
So if guys are worried about coming quickly, you don't have to numb yourself out. You just have to practice for a couple of weeks, lasting longer, and you could last longer. It's not magic,
No.
It's one of the best diagnoses that sex therapy can fix,
That's
can
right.
cure, can eliminate.
That's right.
And
It's
yet
one of the
it's
best
still
protocols.
a multi-million-dollar a year industry on finding ways to last longer.
Right.
And even Trojan sells condoms with numbing stuff in them. Remember the great commercials?
That's right.
Again, the marketing's always brilliant. They have every old innuendo, every old trick that guys have used to not orgasm too quickly. Like think of your mother-in-law, and they have the old lady stirring a batch of cookie dough. Or think about baseball, and the baseball players are in the bedroom, right?
Right.
Cute commercials, but stupid products,
Right.
right? Don't numb yourself out to last longer. Have better sex.
Yes.
And don't be in such a rush to get to intercourse.
Right, and let's also add to this equation that all of these guys, and we're talking mostly heterosexual guys. Not to say that other guys don't have these same issues, but it's not the same. I don't think it's on the same level. But especially for heterosexual guys who are obsessed with this stuff, number one, please keep in mind that most women don't want you there that long.
Right.
The average
So
amount of
banging
time
for hours.
for intercourse is about 7 minutes.
That's porn.
9 minutes for most women is considered too long. Right?
No.
So this idea of lasting longer, this is your ego, dude. And it really is not doing anybody any favors. Your partner isn't as excited about that as you are. In fact, it may go in the opposite direction. So this is really not a good obsession. And what guys are doing to themselves and doing to their bodies really, in many cases, is very unhealthy.
Right. Better to take the advice of Ian Kerner's classic, She Comes First. That's the title of the book, and the good advice all
Exactly.
in one. What types of products are we talking about?
Well, again, I mean, we've been talking about some of the more common, the creams and the pills and lotions and all of that stuff. And I would say the vast majority of those things, if not all of them, will do nothing. But I really also want to say something about the sort of non-pharmaceutical kinds of things. There are all kinds of devices that are available, especially for guys thinking they can enlarge their penis.
No.
And just please stay away from them. Some of you may be familiar with a horrible process called jelqing, which is really also about regrowing the foreskin. That's how it started, but a lot of guys are now using that to try to gain more length on their penis.
Guys, don't hang weights from it. Don't look for surgeons to cut your suspensory ligament. Don't get fat taken out of your ass and injected into your penis, because it moves around and you'll look like a Frankenstein's monster.
That's
freak.
right. And don't put your penis in one of those pasta rollers. That's actually sold as a jelqing machine. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
No.
That got put in like one of these pasta rollers. You're just going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Now, you also said something, too, that a lot of guys really have been going for, and that is that surgical technique.
I don't know. Who are these doctors that are doing this?
To me, that's really the unethical part. That's a legitimate thing for guys that have a real problem, but not cosmetic.
What's the problem?
Right. There are a couple of physical issues that cutting the suspensory ligament might be appropriate for, but it's not a cosmetic procedure, and that's the thing. You cut that ligament, right? There's that ligament that keeps the penis attached to the abdominal wall.
Bone.
Right? Now, if you cut that, you basically...
Floppy.
you just have a floppy erection.
So it might look like it's a half an inch longer because it's hanging
barely.
half an inch.
And that's it, barely. A lot of these other techniques, there's this fast size extender. It's basically like a penile traction device. There's a couple of those things that some of them actually can be used to treat some cases of Peyronie's disease.
We haven't looked this up yet. I've been meaning to. This new drug they're advertising, like a collagenase, right, to straighten out those bent penises.
Yes.
But guys, don't use.
Yeah, but it's not for enlargement. You're not going to get girth. You're not going to get length. Right? There really is no such thing as penis enlargement. So save your money. Save your ego. Keep yourself intact and maximize you.
Be a more creative lover.
That's really a big part of it.
Take advantage of toys. There's sleeves. There's extenders. There's ways to get everybody on the same page.
That's right.
If it's really a complaint. But again, it's usually more in guys' heads than their partners.
And let me give you this advice. Guys, you are more than just a penis. Right? You need to be a little bit more creative as a lover. We got hands, we got toes, we got tongues, we got lips, we got all kinds of things that we can use. We have a lot more than just a penis.
And I will add, there's lots of great, naturally occurring, powerful drugs going through our brain and throughout our body during sexual arousal. So don't ruin the high by getting so shit-faced drunk that you've fallen out of bed. Right, because you're anxious and nervous. Right.
Now that's another topic. We can spend a whole time talking about how many guys are using alcohol to try to pre-medicate their fear of rapid ejaculation, but they're drinking themselves into complete erectile failure.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is not coming back. In other words, they're drinking themselves into erectile dysfunction, and they're staying that way.
In their 20s and 30s.
Right. And we see way too much of that. We've been seeing that over the last couple of years. So we can do a whole separate show on that. But I think at this point right now,
we'll call it a night.
We'll call it a night. And want to thank you all for joining us and spending this part of your Friday evening with us, right, with the Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers.
And join us next Friday and every Friday at 7 p.m. East Coast time on YouTube. And again, please hit those like buttons and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes. Appreciate it.
Cheers to you. Stay safe.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us each week on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can also follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay on top of the latest developments in the ever-changing world of sex and sexuality.